Top Fox News lawyer Andy McCarthy publicly humiliated Donald Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi over their ever escalating weaponization of the Justice Department, this time in broad daylight vis a vis the Epstein Files. And we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, before I turn you over to Andy McCarthy and we dive into what he has to say, I got to get you the proper context here. So, in the aftermath of the recent Epstein bombshells, as I've mentioned in previous videos, Trump publicly ordered the Justice Department to launch investigations and potentially arrest Democrats. So he says, now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try to deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all their other failures, I will be asking Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Justice Department, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, J.P. Morgan, Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. This is another Russia scam with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Stay tuned. Now, again, the projection and hypocrisy are shameless. We know that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were best friends. They were photographed and filmed together. I mean, Trump has more photographs with Epstein than most people do with their own parents. Like, that's how close they were. We've been, in discussing the email tranches that have been released, linking Epstein and Trump, how humiliating, and discussing how Epstein himself, said to Ghislaine Maxwell and Michael Wolff and others in emails that as far as he knew, Trump knew all about of the disgusting, reprehensible shit that Epstein was doing. Okay, so Trump is like the seething nexus at the heart of all of this. And instead, he's trying to gaslight the American people and say, oh, it's about the Democrats. And in response to this, Attorney General Pam Bondi publicly responded to the public directive to weaponize the Justice Department, and she said, yes, sir. She goes, thank you, Mr. President. Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton is one of the most capable and trusted prosecutors in the country, and I've asked him to take the lead. As with all matters, the department will pursue this with urgency and integrity to deliver answers to the American people. Now, in response to, again, this unprecedented escalation and weaponization of the Justice Department, Andy McCarthy, Fox News lawyer and National Review contributor, had a lot to say by way of conservative legal analysis, debunking and humiliating them. But first, I want you to hear from a different lawyer, Dan Abrams. He's more centrist than conservative. He's one of the big names over at News Nation. He's involved with Mediaite. And he's got about 95 seconds in which he reads Pam Bondi the Riot Act. So we're going to watch this, and then we'll dive into what Andy McCarthy has to say.
Bondi has just responded to the president's call to investigate Democrats in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. And she is just being a loyal soldier and doing exactly what she's told to do. Thank you, Mr. President. The Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton is one of the most capable and trusted prosecutors in the country. I've asked him to take lead. As with all matters, the department will pursue this with urgency and integrity to deliver answers to the American people. Now, of course, this office already prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell, who's preparing to put Jeffrey Epstein on trial. Almost all of the prosecutors who were involved in those cases have left the office. Bondi has also ordered the Southern District of New York to empty its Epstein files and send them to Washington, D.C. Now, remember that the DOJ had initially said we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Remember? That's what they said in terms of why this was a dead story.
And this plays into what Andy McCarthy is about to tell you. This is key. Remember, that was the predicate. Hey, I know we said we'd release the Epstein files, but there's nothing really to release. There's nothing more to talk about because there's no reason to look into anybody else. Now they've done a 180.
So what's the new predicate? What's the new evidence? This is really unbelievable. Trump calls for it and he gets it, and they have to completely backtrack on everything they've said up to that point. It's just shocking. Shocking. This is not a story that's going to go away now. Remember I said the Epstein story would go away? If Trump wants to keep this in the news, it seems he will do that.
Exactly. I mean, disgusting. It's escalatory. It's weaponization. And this is something that Andy McCarthy dives deep into. Is Bondi saying her DOJ's prior exhaustive Epstein review was a sham? Andy McCarthy. The Justice Department is in the business of investigating crime, not the business of conducting political opposition research. On Friday, Trump posted yet another order directing Attorney General Pam Bondi to weaponize the government's law enforcement apparatus for political gain. I want to stop right there. That is a top Fox News legal analyst, a legendary conservative who hates Democrats and really wants to like Trump. Just putting it right out there in the opening paragraph. Another order, he says, not the first. Trump gave yet another order directing the Attorney General to weaponize the government's law enforcement apparatus for political gain. Unlike the last one, in which Trump inveighed against Bondi's failure, theretofore to indict 3 of his political opponents, Comey, Letitia James, and Adam Schiff, this one was not intended as a private dressing down that Trump inadvertently published on Truth Social. This time, Trump purposely and openly demanded that the Justice Department and the FBI investigate Democrats. Sadly, he says it's no longer surprising that Pam Bondi can't bring herself to tell her boss that it would be a waste of the Justice Department's time to conduct investigations at the public direction of a president who leaves unconcealed his partisan motivation for giving such an order. And again, I want to be clear here. It's coming from a conservative Fox News lawyer who says there's no ambiguity about this. This is not a matter of debate. Trump is openly, shamelessly weaponizing the Justice Department. And anyone who tells you otherwise is a fucking liar or a fucking moron. I'm adding that last part in. Even if there were anything to investigate, most attorneys general would explain to the president that the courts would throw out any resulting prosecution as an abuse of process because Trump is just making it so transparent. There's no plausible deniability whatsoever. Again, he notes, moreover, by pursuing such nakedly politicized investigations, again, very clear, and I appreciate the clear language. He's not trying to softball it. He's like, no. This is a politicized investigation. Prosecutors and FBI agents would be opening up themselves to potential civil rights charges. At this very moment, in fact, Trump supporters are demanding that the current Justice Department bring such charges against Obama and Biden administration officials. And Trump himself is seeking a $230 million payday from the taxpayers over having been the target, notwithstanding that the federal investigations against him were based on actual misconduct. And again, this is a lawyer. I can't stress this enough. Andy McCarthy still grades Trump on a curve. Andy McCarthy had a lot to say about the federal investigations into Trump from Georgia, from New York, and the 2 federal investigations by Jack Smith. But even he acknowledged that there was actual factual misconduct by Trump, even if he didn't think that Trump should eventually be prosecuted or was prosecuted for the wrong crime or whatever. He was like, yeah, Trump fucked up, and Trump did do things that merited an investigation. That's a shock. I mean, it's sad that that sort of concession is noteworthy, but it is. And he's saying, this isn't even like that. There's no evidence of actual misconduct. No one at this point expects Bondi to say, Mr. President, it would be wrong to do what you're ordering me to do. But couldn't she at least summon up the gumption to say, Mr. President, we already looked at the Epstein Files and announced to the public that we found nothing that could justify new charges? Apparently not. In a prompt, public response, the Attorney General was obeisant. But Bondi's Justice Department and the FBI just told us just 4 months ago that they'd pursued a review of the government's Epstein Files with urgency and integrity to deliver answers to the American people. That had to be done due to the pressure that Bondi herself helped create by hyping the Epstein Files as if Democrats had conspired to conceal them, rather than because of laws and regulations that prohibit the Justice Department from publicizing information about investigations and uncharged persons. They told us there was nothing more to investigate, to charge, or to say. So is Bondi now telling us that her number 2, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, is not one of the most capable and trusted prosecutors in the country? And what about FBI Director Kash Patel, for whom she publicly professes admiration, despite reports that she's privately exasperated? Blanche and Patel collaborated in July on a joint Justice Department FBI memo, asserting that as part of the Trump DOJ and FBI's commitment to transparency, they had conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. Their conclusion, quote, we did not uncover evidence that would predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Furthermore, despite Bondi's awkward intimation in an earlier televised interview that she had Epstein's client list sitting on her desk, the Justice Department and FBI reported this systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. This was not a fleeting review. According to the memo approved by Blanche and Patel, to ensure that the review was thorough, The FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. That's why that figure about the Epstein files being 300 gigs, they're the ones who provided that figure. The files related to Epstein includes a large number of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child abuse material and others. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting its victims. And now Trump and Bondi are like, oh, actually, we didn't do that. Actually, there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more to investigate, just as long as it's Democrats. Interesting. The memo is emphatic that the Trump DOJ and FBI looked in granular detail at the evidence relating to and claims made by Epstein's victims. They left no stone unturned in the effort to identify any co-conspirators and prosecute criminal cases if that could be done. And go through examples. Given the amount of time and effort that was dedicated to this probe by legions of prosecutors and agents, what conceivable basis can there be now for Attorney General Bondi to refer the Epstein files back to the Southern District of New York, whence the files came in the first place? As I previously related, the SDNY spent years prosecuting Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, whom Blanche was dispatched to interview about 3 months ago, presumably because of his intimate familiarity with the Justice Department's exhaustive review. It would not be more obvious that the SDNY was determined to indict child trafficking cases if any evidence warranting such charges could be found. There is every reason to believe that the SDNY would have spotlighted crimes of pedophilia if they could have found them. Such cases, especially against prominent defendants, would have been career makers for the prosecutors. But that aside, common sense says that if prosecutors want to bury cases, they don't bring 2 indictments, thereby triggering massive discovery of the government's files. What is Bondi saying by suddenly instructing Jay Clayton to, quote, take the lead? Does she think Blanche and Patel missed something? Yes, these are rhetorical questions. When a president demands something lawless and unethical be done, an honorable subordinate tries to talk the president out of that course, and failing that, resigns. Clearly, that's not going to happen. Again, I have to emphasize this. This is Fox News' top legal analyst, one of their top legal analysts, a legendary conservative, respected by Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly loves this guy. That's how conservative he is. And I think about what he has said about Trump and Bondi here. And again, I want to emphasize, he says that Trump is demanding something lawless and unethical. Not sketchy, not morally ambiguous, not kind of shitty, lawless and unethical. And he's saying that Pam Bondi is dishonorable. She is not honorable because she's refusing to persuade Trump or even try to persuade Trump that what he's doing is wrong or resigning. This is stunning. The mission of the Justice Department is to uphold the rule of law by investigating potential criminal conduct with an eye towards indicting criminal cases. The Justice Department is not supposed to do politics. If there's no criminal case to bring, the Justice Department's work is over, and the rules prohibit it from publicly broadcasting investigative information regarding people who are neither charged nor called as witnesses. In his post, Trump didn't even pretend to have a law enforcement reason to demand a Justice Department and FBI inquiry. He unabashedly asserted he wanted it done because, quote, the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try to deflect from their political, quote, failures. In retaliation, he insisted that the DOJ and FBI look into, quote, involvement and relationship that Epstein had with top Democrats and institutions which Trump sees as Democrat adjacent. As Bondi presumably knows this, it's not a federal crime to have had, quote, involvement or a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump mentions, quote, or claims, quote, records show that these prominent Democrats he just mentioned and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Even if we assume that's true, to have spent time with Epstein, wherever that allegedly happened, is not in and of itself a federal crime. The Justice Department is in the business of investigating crime, not of conducting political opposition research. It would be a federal crime to have conspired with Epstein in a sex trafficking ring, but Blanche and Patel have already said, after a scorched earth review of the government's vast array of Epstein files, that there's no evidence of that. Naturally, the media Democratic complex is lavishing attention on mounds of unsavory but non-incriminating emails and reporting tying Trump to Epstein. In retaliation, Trump is prodding his attorney general to dig up unsavory information tying notable Democrats to Epstein. That is an overtly political task. Trump has an array of political operatives in and out of government whom he could deploy for such purposes. But it would not be an appropriate assignment for the Justice Department, even if the Justice Department hadn't already conducted an exhaustive review and announced there was no point in further investigation. Pam Bondi's answer was to Trump's political command was to salute and tell the U.S. attorney in Manhattan to get right on it. So, folks, this is stunning. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. It's not the words of a liberal. It's not the words of even Dan Abrams or anything like that, or Ellie Mistal, a progressive legal analyst. It's not Alex Wagner. It's not Katie Fang. It's not, this is Andy friggin' McCarthy of Fox News and the National Review, beloved by Megyn Kelly, who has just condemned Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, humiliating and debunking them in real time. You gotta love it. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.